Welcome to Section 2 of Chapter 12, which is Surface Area of Prisms and Cylinders. So Section 1 was kind of the background on naming solids. And now we're jumping right into the actual calculations, the surface area part. Sections 2 and 3 are going to be on surface area, and then we're going to move on to volume. So we have two objectives for this video. The first one is to calculate lateral and surface area of both prisms and cylinders. We're going to use actual figures, and then we're going to use something called a net, which we'll learn about in a few minutes. And then we're going to calculate missing measures using a given surface area. So that's working backwards. Per normal, we're going to start out with some vocabulary. So you're going to notice that figure that you have on the right. It points out the bases, the lateral faces, and the lateral edges. So the two important ones that I want to point out are lateral edges and bases. The bases are the congruent and parallel faces. So in this case, we have these two hexagons. You really only can see the top one, but there's this bottom one here too. They are congruent, and then they're going to be parallel. You'll notice in the definition that I said the bases are congruent and parallel faces. There's two of them. This applies to prisms. So we're in Section 2. Section 2 is all about prisms. So every prism is going to have two bases, and those bases are congruent and parallel. Now, all those other faces that are not the bases, those are the ones that are called the lateral faces. So those 6 blue rectangles, those are the lateral faces. Now, in addition to bases, you're also going to need to know the term lateral faces, or lateral edges, I mean. The lateral edges are the segments connecting the vertices of the two bases. So for example, this vertex on one base and this vertex on another base are connected by a lateral edge. This vertex on one base, this vertex on another base are connected by a lateral edge. So the lateral edges are edges on the lateral faces, but they connect the bases. So today's video, we're going to do two different types of areas, surface area and lateral area. So surface area is the area of all the faces. So it's kind of like if you were taking your figure and wrapping it in wrapping paper. It would be like how much wrapping paper you're using. Lateral, on the other hand, is the area of all the lateral faces. So it does not include the bases. So the lateral area is always going to be less than the surface area because the surface area includes all of the faces. Looking at that figure above, the surface area would include the 2 red hexagons and then the 6 blue rectangles, while the lateral area would only include the blue rectangles. So enough of all these definitions, let's look at example number 1. Example number 1 says, find the surface area of a rectangular prism with a height of 2 centimeters, a length of 5 centimeters, and a width of 6 centimeters. Now, you're going to see right here, we have our original solid that was unfolded. All the way on the right, this is called a net. It's when you take a 3D figure and you break it up into 2D and lay it out. That's called a net. So we need to find the surface area. The surface area is simply the area of all of the faces. So all we need to do is figure out the area of all of those rectangles. The rectangle all the way on the right, so this one, has dimensions 6 by 2, so it's going to have an area of 12. This rectangle is 5 by 2, so it's going to have an area of 10. Same thing with this rectangle up here. This rectangle right here is going to be 5 by 6, which is 30. Same thing with this one here, it's going to be 30. And then this little rectangle is going to be 2 by 6, and it's going to be 12. So my surface area just means add up all the faces. So that's going to be 30, add 12, add 30, add 12, add 10, add 10. 30 and 30 is 60. 12 and 12 is 24. 10 and 10 is going to be 20. So my surface area ends up being 104 centimeters squared. Surface area is like area, so it's going to have units squared. So that's it. That's all you're doing in this video. You're just going to be adding up the sides. Not too bad. Let's look at another one. So example number 2, it says find the surface area of the figure shown. And then it also is asking, what is this figure? So it's a net. So if I were to put together this net, what would it form? Okay. I would like you to try this one on your own. Pause the video, name the figure, and find the surface area. It's probably going to take you a few minutes. So take 2 or 3 minutes and see how you can do. Good luck. Okay, let's see how we did. I'm going to start by finding the surface area. I'm going to start with the rectangle all the way on the left. It's 4 by 7, so it's going to be 28. The one in the middle is 3 by 7, so it's going to be 21. And then one all the way on the right is 5 by 7, so it's 35. This bottom triangle, if this is a right angle, it's going to be 1/2 my base of 3, my height of 4, which is going to be 6. The other triangle is the same. It's also going to be 6. So my surface area in this case is 28, add 21, add 35, add 6, which ends up being 96 centimeters squared. Remember, it's units squared because it's area. We are also asked, what is this figure? So I have to determine how many bases are there. The bases are going to be congruent and parallel. So this is going to involve a little visualization, but you're going to notice we have 2 figures that are congruent. Now when I flip those triangles up, they're going to be parallel. So those are my bases. 2 bases, so this is going to be a prism. They're triangles, so it's going to be a triangular prism. So that's tricky. I know it's difficult to visualize how this net is going to come together, but hopefully you got the surface area right, and you got the name right too. That would be great. If not, that's okay. We're going to do some more practice when you come to class. So let's move on to the next page. Okay, so now we have some more definitions. A right prism and then an oblique prism. In a right prism, the lateral faces are perpendicular to the bases. So in this case, I have 1 base and 1 base. And here is going to be a lateral edge, and it's perpendicular to the base. So for example, this face is perpendicular to the upper base. So this is a right prism. An oblique prism means the lateral faces are not perpendicular to the bases. So the oblique prism is just the opposite of a right prism. Each prism is one or the other. It's either right or oblique. If the lateral faces or the lateral edges are perpendicular to the bases, then it's a right prism, like a right angle. But if the faces are not perpendicular to the bases, then it's an oblique prism. Okay, let's move on to another example. I'm going to help you with example 2, and then you're going to do example 3 on your own. So it says name the figure and calculate its surface area. So first thing, naming the figure. How many bases does it have? Well, it has 2 bases. Two faces that are congruent and parallel, and they are pentagons. So this is a pentagonal prism. Sorry, I misspelled it. Okay, now we have to calculate the surface area. So our surface area is going to be the 2 pentagons, and I'm going to have to add the 5 rectangles. Okay, starting with the rectangles. Each rectangle, so I'm talking about this rectangle right here, all of them are going to be congruent. So they're all going to have the same area. Area is base times height. Now the base of each of these is this 7.05. The height of each rectangle is 9. This was supposed to be a 5, didn't turn out very well though. And then I'm multiplying by 5 because there's 5 of those rectangles. So those rectangles are going to total 317.25. Now I need to find the two pentagons. So I'm going to look at this triangle right here. So I'm going to redraw it. I have 6 and 6. And then the base is 7.05, but I know that the height is going to bisect the base. So this ends up being 3.525, and then 3.525. Now I'm going to find the area of this pentagon just like I have every other pentagon. I'm going to break it up into triangles. So a pentagon has 5 sides, so it's going to be 10 triangles. So I notice right now I have the base of the triangle, but I don't have the height. I do have the hypotenuse, so I'm going to do Pythagorean theorem. I have x squared, add 3.525 squared equals 6 squared. Sorry, I didn't give you very much room. I end up with x squared equals 23.57, but the decimal continues. After I take the square root, I get x equals 4.855, about. I rounded that. Okay, so my height is 4.855. Okay, so now going back, I have 2 pentagons. Each pentagon has some triangles. The triangle is going to be 1/2 my base of 3.525 times my height of 4.855, which I just found. Okay, but then I need to remember that's only one triangle. So at the very end, I'm going to need to multiply by 10 triangles. I kind of ran out of room, so I'm going to stick it in the front. Okay, I know this looks like a lot, but you can enter everything in your calculator just like that. So enter it exactly like that. When you do, you get 171.139. Now, when I add those two up, I get my surface area to be 488.39 feet squared. Okay, and so that was my surface area. So what you ended up doing is you found those 5 rectangles, you found the 2 pentagons like we did last chapter by breaking them up into triangles, and then you added them together to get the entire surface area. One thing I would like to point out, this number right here is the lateral area. So occasionally I'm going to ask you to find the lateral area. That means just the lateral faces, not the bases. So if I had asked you to find the lateral area, your answer would be 317.25. Okay, so example 3 now I would like you to do on your own. It says find the surface area of a right rectangular prism with a height of 7 inches, a length of 3 inches, and a width of 4 inches. My suggestion to you would be to draw the figure first. Then, remember, in order to find surface area, you have to find the area of all the faces. Good luck! Okay, let's see how we did. I'm going to start by drawing a figure like I told you to. Now you're going to have to forgive me on my drawing skills. So a rectangular prism means the bases are rectangles. Okay, so this is my rectangular prism. The height is 7. The width is 4, and the length is 3. Okay, so my surface area is going to be the areas of all the faces. I have the top and bottom faces, and those are going to be congruent. I have the left and right faces, and I have the front and back faces. Okay, so the top and bottom faces, that's going to be this one right here. It's 3 by 4, so 3 times 4, and then I'm going to multiply by 2 because there's 2 of them. 3 times 4 is 12, multiplied by 2 is going to be 24. Then I have the left and the right. So that's going to be this face right here, and then the one opposite it. This is 4 by 7. So I'm going to do 4 times 7, and then multiply by 2 because there's both the left and the right. 4 times 7 is 28. When I multiply by 2, that's going to give me 56. And then I have the front and the back. So that's going to be this face right here, the front and the back. They're going to be congruent. This is 3 by 7. And then I'm going to multiply by 2 because there's 2 of them. 3 times 7 is 21. When I multiply by 2, that's going to give me 42. Now, to get my final surface area, I have to add all of these up. When I do that, I get a surface area of 122 inches squared. So hopefully that one went well for you. If you drew your figure wrong, it would have been difficult to get the right answer. So do know that you only really have 3 different faces because they're congruent. Front and back are congruent, top and bottom, left and right. So you're going to have to remember to find the area of one face and multiply by 2 since they're congruent. If you got it wrong, not a big deal. We will be doing a few more in class. So let's move on. Okay, we have one more that we're going to do in terms of prisms, and then we're going to move on to cylinders. So here we are told, find the exact surface area of the figure shown. Well, first of all, we should probably talk about what is this figure. Well, there's 2 bases, so it's a prism, and they're triangles, so this is going to be a triangular prism. Okay, so in order to find the surface area, I have the 2 triangles, and I'm adding the 3 rectangles. The rectangles are the lateral faces. Now, the rectangles, those are going to be the easiest to find, so let's start with that. My rectangles are going to be base times height. The base of the rectangle is 9. The height of the rectangle is 5. So I'm going to do 9 times 5, and then multiply by 3 because there's 3 of those rectangles. This ends up being 135. So those rectangles are 135. Now I need to focus on the triangles. I'm going to redraw the triangle. It's equilateral and all the sides are 5. Okay, in order to find a triangle, I need 1/2 base times height. Right now I have the base of 5, but I don't have the height. So here's my height. It's going to split that 5 into 2.5 and 2.5. Okay, and then I need the height. Well, I should notice this is an equilateral triangle. Because it's an equilateral triangle, all the angles are 60. It's also equiangular. So this is 60, this is 60, and that upper angle is split into 30 and 30. Okay, so now I have this 30, 60, 90 triangle, which goes L, L root 3, and 2L. Across from the 90 is 5. Across from the 30 is 2.5. So then this is going to be 2.5 root 3. So my height, which is across from the 60, is going to be 2.5 root 3. Okay, so each triangle is going to be 1/2 my base of 5, my height of 2.5 root 3. This is going to end up being 6.25 root 3, but that's one triangle. So I'm going to substitute this back. I have 2 triangles multiplied by 6.25 root 3 for each. This ends up being 12.5 root 3. So my final surface area, exact surface area, is 12.5 root 3, add 135. And this is going to be centimeters squared. Now, these are not like terms, so please do not combine them. One has a root 3, the other one doesn't have a root. So do not combine them. It doesn't get any exacter than this. The final answer is just 12.5 root 3, add 135 centimeters squared. Okay, so this shouldn't be too tricky. Basically, we're just taking everything that we learned last chapter in terms of area, and we're putting it all together. So that's prisms. Prisms, find the area of all the sides, add them all up. With cylinders, it gets to be a little more difficult. So you're going to notice the cylinder we have here on the left. 2 bases, and then that blue lateral area. Each base is a circle. So looking at the figure on the right, my circles are both going to be pi r squared. Now that kind of wrapper around the cylinder, once you lay it all out, it's going to be a rectangle. So that area is 2 pi r h. The surface area of a cylinder then is 2 pi r h, add 2 pi r squared. 2 pi r squared is the 2 bases, or the 2 circles. And then the 2 pi r h is what I like to call the wrapper. So I think of it like a soup can. The 2 pi r h is like the label that you take off of the soup can. So anytime that you try to find the surface area of a cylinder, you have a formula. You're just going to substitute right into the formula. So let's try it with example number 4. It says calculate the exact surface area of a right cylinder with a height of 18 and a radius of 10. I like to have a figure to look at, so I'm going to draw us a figure. Okay, so our height is 18 and our radius is 10. Okay, so our surface area is going to be 2 pi r h, add 2 pi r squared. Okay, so 2 pi, our radius is 10, our height is 18, add 2 pi times 10 squared. Okay, 10 times 18 is going to be 180, so it's 180 times 2 pi, plus 2 pi times 10 squared is 100. 180 multiplied by 2 is going to be 360 pi. Add 2 times 100 is going to be 200 pi. So my final surface area is going to be 560 pi centimeters squared. And we're going to have centimeters squared because it's area, so units squared. So cylinders are super easy. All you have to do is plug right into a formula. It doesn't get too tricky. Example 5, really similar. I would like you to do this one though on your own. So pause the video, calculate the exact surface area of the figure shown. Exact means that your answer should have pi in it. Good luck. Okay, so the answer that you should have gotten is 720 pi inches squared. If you didn't get that, you made a mistake. When you come to class tomorrow, I'm going to be making sure that you have all of the correct work to back up this problem. Moving on. Okay, we have one more problem to do together, and then you have one to do on your own. So, example 6. Calculate the height of the right cylinder shown, which has a surface area of 157.08. So, first thing that I'm going to do is write our surface area formula. So, surface area is 2 pi r h, add 2 pi r squared. Again, this is just for a cylinder. Now let's plug in what we know. We know the surface area is 157.08. So I have 157.08 equals 2 pi, r is 2.5, times h, plus 2 pi times 2.5 squared. Okay, so I have 157.08 equals 2 times 2.5 is going to be 5 pi h plus 2.5 squared is 6.25 multiplied by 2 is going to be 12.5 pi. What I would like you to do next is right below that cylinder, if you would do me a favor, write your favorite color and circle it. So right below that cylinder, right below example 6, that cylinder, write your favorite color and circle it. Don't ask me why, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay, so moving on and solving for h. I need to get h alone, so I'm going to subtract the 12.5 pi. So I have 157.08 minus 12.5 pi equals 5 pi h. Last, I'm going to divide by 5 pi, divide by 5 pi. So h is equal to 157.08 minus 12.5 pi all over 5 pi. Now this is an ugly answer for sure, so I want you to plug it in your calculator. You have to be very, very careful and make sure that both your numerator and denominator are in parentheses. If they're not, you're going to get the wrong answer. When you do that, you get your height to be about 7.50 meters. And that's it. Okay, you have one example to do on your own. So what we did in this video, we calculated lateral area and surface area. So for prisms, surface area just means add up all the sides. Lateral area is add up all the sides that are not the bases. And then, on example 6 and the example that you are just about to do, we worked backwards. I gave you the surface area and you had to find, a side or a height or a radius. So looking at the example you have to do, it says solve for x given the surface area. So the surface area is 192. Now, this is a square prism, so it has 6 sides. It has the front and the back that are going to be the same. It has the left and right that are going to be the same. And it has the top and the bottom that are going to be the same. I'm going to help you out. The front and back. So that's this right here. So those are going to be 4 times 4. And I'm going to multiply by 2 because there's 2 of them. So this ends up being 32. The left and the right. That's this right here. That's going to end up being 4 times x, but I have to multiply by 2 because there's 2 of them, which ends up being 8x. Do the same thing for the top and the bottom. And that surface area should equal 192. So when you come to class tomorrow, I'm going to be looking to see that you have an answer for x. Please come with work and an answer. Do not show up to class and say, I didn't know what to do. Try your best. On the next page, you're going to notice we have a few more examples, and we're going to do those in class tomorrow. So if you have any questions, please make sure you write them down and come to class prepared to complete some problems with surface area. See you tomorrow.